How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. I'm Sam Holcman. Thanks for joining me on this particular broadcast. And the topic for this particular broadcast is TOGAF, the Open Group Architecture Framework. TOGAF is often described as both a framework and a methodology for enterprise architecture. However, this dual characterization actually creates confusion, as TOGAF does not fit neatly into either a category of a frame of reference, a framework, or a methodology. It is best understood as a hybrid approach that combines elements of a framework and a methodology without fully embodying the strengths of either one of these, unfortunately. Why is TOGAF not a framework or methodology? Well, let's take a look for a moment at framework characteristics. A framework typically provides a structured set of tools, templates, and guidelines to create architectures. However, unlike structural frameworks like the Zachman ontology, which is a frame of reference, TOGAF lacks the rigid modularity and universal applicability expected of a standalone framework. Rigidity of framework is one of its features and benefits, not a drawback. Imagine the alternative in the English language, a flexible framework where changes occur periodically. Let's change from 26 letters in the alphabet to 14 to 96. A continuing changing alphabet result in language that would be at a standstill. We couldn't communicate with each other. The same is true for architectural frameworks and methodologies. What is a methodology characteristic? A methodology outlines the step-by-step recipe or approach to achieve a specific outcome. It is not a general body of knowledge. TOGAF incorporates the ADM, which provides iterative phases and general guidance for developing EA. While ADM is methodological in nature, it's not prescriptive enough to be considered a complete methodology on its own. It leaves significant room for interpretation and tailoring, which can lead to inconsistent implementations. Let's come back to the phrase recipe. You want a recipe to make a chocolate cake. That's what we want the end product to be. Not a cake, not a pizza, but a chocolate cake. Think about the analogy when you're looking at methodologies. Which leads us to the hybrid nature of TOGAF. TOGAF attempts to blend these two paradigms by offering high-level guidance, a framework, a frame of reference, alongside process-oriented phrases and phases, methodology. However, this hybrid nature can be problematic. It lacks the precision of a formal framework, and its methodological components are generalized and require extensive customization to be practical in real-world scenarios. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to make a chocolate cake, you want a tried-and-true recipe to make a chocolate cake. Coming out of the block, you don't want a bunch of choices and fail after fail after fail after fail. You can and get methodologies in enterprise architecture that produces solid results because there is a pathway that has been tested numerous times in the real world. This results in confusion and ambiguity in application. Organizations often struggle to determine whether they should treat TOGAF as a rigid framework or a flexible methodology. This ambiguity can result in inconsistent EA practices across teams. Overwhelming complexity. With 52 chapters covering everything from governance to risk management, TOGAF's breadth can be overwhelming for the practitioner who has never done this before, who are unsure how to prioritize its components. Misaligned expectations. Stakeholders may expect TOGAF to provide either detailed instructions like a methodology or universal templates like a framework, only to find that it does neither of these comprehensively. So what is TOGAF's role? View TOGAF as a toolkit. Rather than treating it strictly as a framework or methodology, consider it a toolkit that offers resources to develop EAs tailored to specific organizational needs once you learn how to actually develop an enterprise architecture based on a solid framework. To reduce confusion, understand that customization is going to be required. Recognize that successful implementations require adapting TOGAF components to align your organization's context and goals. But here's the issue. If you've never done this before, how do you know what to implement? How do you know what to customize? And how do you know how to move forward? You're going to need some complementary tools. You need more structure to combine what TOGAF is doing with other things. For example, John Zachman's ontology and the EA COE enablement of that, and a solid recipe methodology like the EA COE methodology, which can enhance its utility. So, in conclusion, while TOGAF is used in the EA community, its hybrid nature, as neither a full framework or a methodology, necessitates careful interpretation and application. Understanding its limitations often leads organizations to a more robust and consistent approach. As an example, the Enterprise Architecture Center of Excellence Enterprise Architecture Methodology. In conclusion, is this voice biased? Yes. What's our objective? To enable you to do enterprise architecture and produce stakeholder-focused architectures that are human consumable as quickly and as effectively and efficiently as possible. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning into Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then. Thank you for tuning in.